I want to give you all the tools you need to understand and play over the whole fretboard, to be able to know all the positions and move between them seamlessly. And I'm going to try and do it in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to start in a practical place. And I'm going to play over a jam track that's available. If you just click the link below and sign up for the 30 free guitar lessons, you can get this jam track for free. I'm going to play minor pentatonic. I'm going to play the 5 boxes. And this is how we'll start. Then in the next few minutes, we'll ramp it up and I'll show you a lot more. So that's it, the 5 boxes. So those are the 5 minor pentatonic boxes in the key of E minor. Now let's look at a couple of other tools. I want you to see E chords, E minor chords, everywhere they exist. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one right here. These E minor triads exist everywhere, and once you start to learn them, you have another great tool while you solo. Check out here. Here's another one. Here's another one up here. Okay. So then next, I'd like you to look at the boxes, but just stay on one string. So if we stay on the high E string, box 1, box 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now if I do it smoothly, that's another great tool for soloing and another great tool for transitioning from box to box. Because if you use the leading finger on one string, then you can go from one box to another very easily, and the listener doesn't even know. Anyway, let me jump in the track, and I'll try all these new tools while I'm improvising. Okay, there I'm going through the boxes, but I'm playing on one string and using one finger. Creates an easy, strong melody every time you do that. But here's box 5, box 4, box 3, and box 2. Used them all on one string. Now I'm going to play the blues. Okay, now let's try some chord shapes. Okay, that was the E minor here, E minor here, E minor here, E minor here, and then the full traditional 6-note E minor in the first position. Now I'm going to go from box 1 to box 2 simply by lifting my little finger up to the 5th fret. Let me show you. Here's box 1. Here's 2. Back to 1. To 2. Now I want to show you changing positions, box to box, just by leading with one finger. So I transitioned upward from box to box just by leading with my 3rd finger, and I played exactly the same phrase each time and transferred that from box to box. I'll show you again. Now I can also do a similar thing by going this way and descending using my index finger to lead. But always remember, and never forget, just that you can simply hang out in 1 or 2 boxes and play the blues. So now let's add a little more complexity and make it a 7-note scale. And in this case, it's going to be E minor Dorian because it works over these chords. What we'll be adding is a 9th, which you can hang on. You can land on that and stay there. I love doing that. And it's basically because the chords are kind of minor 9th chords. And then a 6th, which you kind of have to use in passing, which I'll show you in a sec. Now, we do have to change this when it goes to the A minor section. What we have to do there is make it a flat 6. So we play E natural minor then, which is G major. Very simple. And it's nice. I love making slight changes when the chords change. It's nice for the brain. Not too demanding, but really nice. So these things that we're changing, this 7-note scale, makes it a little, quote, jazzy, unquote, at times. And that's a great foil and relief from the pentatonic blues work. So let's dive in and I'll show you how this works. So that's me using the 6th in passing. You can hang on the 9th. It's pretty fun. Now we go to the 4 chord, the minor chord, come back, and I'm going to hang on the 9th again. Playing some octaves always works nice. I don't know if you guys remember Wes Montgomery, but that was his thing. So it does get a little jazzy with that 7-note scale. That was just pure luck that I landed on that note on the beat. So I just want to play a blues lick and get away from the complexity for a second. Okay, remember, if you want this jam track, just sign up for the 30 free lessons and you'll have it. If you already have the 30 free lessons, it's been added to your access. So let's review for a second. We had the 5 pentatonic boxes. Just go back through the video, look at the diagrams, and freeze frame it if you need, if you want to study this. We had the 5 boxes on 1 string. Then we added these extra notes, the 9th and the 6th. Made it a 7-note scale, which is basically E natural minor and G major. Exactly the same, very simple. And then if you want to change that 7-note scale out for the simpler blues scale, it's a good thing to do because it gives you and the listener some different flavors to play with. Lastly, when it goes to the A minor, the 4 chord, you have to drop this C sharp to C. You have to drop the 6th to a flat 6th. And it's very easy to see when you start looking at that scale in that particular spot as just plain old G major or plain old E minor. Then lastly again, there's 2 chords I didn't even talk about, the C to D at the end of the second turnaround. That requires the same formula, E natural minor or G major. Pretty easy. You can kind of trace the chords too if you want to. For today's video, this is my Tom Anderson Raven. I've had it for a long time. Tom's guitars are exquisite. All the models. This is a Marshall that Paul Reed Smith got for me. I think Eric Johnson owned it for a while. It's a PA head, 100 watts from 1968. Channel 3 sounds really good. The distortion you're hearing is purely from the amp. If I want it cleaner, I just turn it down a little bit. No pedals on this one. And then it's going to a 412 cabinet with 1968. They're called 1217 Celestians. And that's the story. It's mic'd up with a Royer and a 57. Now I'm going to turn the delay back on, do a little more playing, and then we'll talk some more. So yesterday we did this live stream for Masterclass members only, and the version of that is more casual, and it's about an hour long. And a really good thing happened. A member reminded me that a really great way to look at the A minor section of this is just to call it A minor Dorian. I had completely overthought not overthought, because there are 2 or 3 explanations for anything in music, at least. And there's so many ways to look. If something is right in the center, the bullseye in music, there's like 4 or 5 ways to get to it and 3 or 4 ways to define it. So I was talking about the A minor in terms of E natural minor and G major. But he said, isn't it just A minor Dorian? And he was right. I thought about it for a second. So what that means is if you're playing an E minor Dorian over this jam track, all you have to do is take that template and do the exact same thing on the 5th fret at A minor. So I thought that was really cool. Now, somebody asked about memorization skill. I was able to do professionally is anytime I was composing something for a song, coming up with a riff or a part or a solo, I was able to capture the imprint of that in my mind and hold it and alter it. So if I was playing a solo and they said, yeah, I like this part of it, but change this, I was always able to hold that event in my mind. Now, long-term memory has never been great for me. There are people we all know who have photographic memories who remember everything forever. The best musicians I've ever worked with have had photographic memories, because if they learn, let's say the Rain Song by Led Zeppelin, they know it forever. I've learned the Rain Song by Led Zeppelin 3 times in my life. You have to do a custom tuning. You learn it's the most beautiful thing you've ever played on acoustic guitar, and it doesn't stay in my memory banks. But there are other musicians who learn and they know it forever. And, it's kind of annoying. It just becomes this giant encyclopedia of knowledge. And I think the greatest, the people who excel in any profession or domain are people with photographic memories. So don't give yourself a hard time if you don't have that. It relates to another question somebody asked, which is, how do I remember songs? Well, you don't have to remember songs. If you have the photographic memory, you'll remember it, so you won't ask the question. But if you're asking how to remember songs, the only way to do that is to play them regularly. Have a repertoire of songs that you want to remember, and you could do 3 in one day, another 3 in another day, another 3 in another day. And if throughout the week, if you're touching on this repertoire of songs that you want to keep in your memory banks, let's say over the course of, whenever you can get to it, over the course of a week, and you have 20 songs you want to keep fresh, keep in your memory banks, just touch on them once during that week. And that's the way to do it. And like Andy Wood talks about that, like when he's getting ready to do a performance, he goes back and he plays the songs and gets them up to speed. And in his case, it's not just a matter of remembering them, it's a matter of getting them up to that high level of technical ability that he is sitting on, that he is riding on, the edge. Now, I don't have that problem so much because I play in kind of a comfort zone of, slower stuff, easier stuff. But somebody like Andy, he does it for 2 reasons. One is to get his memory back of the repertoire, but also to get back on that upper top edge of performance. So I'm just going to play one more time through, and then we'll keep talking. Thank you, everybody from all over the world. We are good here. It was life-changing and intense, but everybody's okay now, and we're rebuilding. I was very lucky. Anyway, guys, here we go. I love landing on the 9th and staying there. There's the 9th again. Leave spaces. Double stops. Vibrato. One thing I always do, and you should do too, I recommend, is stack overdrives. And all that means, and I first really learned this from Tom Bukovac when he came out here to do a Rob Thomas record I did with him in the early 2000s. And he would take his overdrives, his favorite ones at that time, and it's changed over the last decade, and he would have like his one boss distortion on like 1, so it barely cranked the gain, and then he would have his ODR1 nobles on 3, so it barely cranked it. So, and then he would do different combinations of these stacked overdrives. And I would say 3 in a row is fine. And the other benefit to that is that you never have to change your sweet spot. Let's say if you have your clone of the ODR1, which might be the Keeley one or the Karma, which I use Greg Drummond's Karma pedal as an ODR1 clone, and I have ODR1s, so I know that it's the same. He did it. When you find the sweet spot, and it's the best spot, rather than change that for a different tone, just stack another tone with an overdrive that might be just on 1. And then you can experiment with which one sounds better in front, in back. And this is what guitar players do. This is exactly what all professional guitar players do. They take their overdrive pedals, they say, oh, this one sounds better in front of that one. But the great thing about it is you can find the sweet spot on your favorite overdrive, leave it there, never touch it, so it's always there for you. And then if you need more, you just add another pedal. You just chain another one in. Before I forget, Paul Rivera. I did a really nice video that I really enjoyed with a 50-year-old Rivera Fender Deluxe that I was able to get. And we interviewed Paul. That was a couple of weeks ago. And he is auctioning on eBay a really cool amp that's in the style of Rick Nielsen, and it's got a custom paint job, and it's for charity for the World Kitchen. That link is below if you want to take a look at this amp and bid on it for charity. Another really good question that I got is how to put a band together and play nice with other musicians. And this would have been easier back when I was a teenager in my 20s because there were no computers and people had to, check this out. When I moved to LA, there were no cell phones and no computers, okay? There was no digital recording in studios, and there were no programmed tracks. This was even, that happened in the 80s, but it happened just after I got here. So when I got here in LA, and when I was in Albuquerque working, but when I got here in LA and I touched the music business, I started to open doors. The only way you could make music was by getting together with other people, okay? So those kind of things got solved. I mean, you would just get together with a group of musicians and try something. But it would be somebody's living room and blasting away, or in a studio, or they had like rehearsal rooms that you would pay an hourly rate for. Now, we are at the point where pretty much everybody does their work alone in any profession. And so you have to create, you have to force the issue. You have to go and find people to work with if you want that. And then what I would say is you describe yourself as who you are and what you're looking for. And then you reach out to people through social media in your area, or at the university nearby, or when you go see music and there are other musicians there. There are lots of ways, particularly with social media, lots of ways to reach people, but describe who you are and exactly what you want. And if you want to play blues every weekend, if you want to play classic rock once a month, whatever it is that you want to do, describe it, and then be patient and don't settle for people who are not reliable. I mean, somebody who's limited on an instrument, that's okay. It can actually be a great feature because they play simply and they have a lane they stay in. But you want them to be reliable and trustworthy and supportive. And then the best case scenario, if you end up with a ringer, some piano player who can just play anything and has a day job, and they're out there. So, there's this old adage where, you don't want to be the best musician in the room or in your band. And that's really true because you'll get better. So that's my advice on that. So yeah, I'll play one more jam here, and which will last exactly, I think this one cycle through this jam track lasts about a minute. And just to describe this, if you take the 30 free guitar lessons, this jam track is attached to it. If you already have access to the 30 free guitar lessons, this jam track is attached to it, so you've already got it. It's there for you. And the Masterclass live stream we did yesterday, we attached it to that too for all you Masterclass members who took my advice and showed up for this one today. The longer one is casual. It's fun. It's really low key. So if you do want to try the Masterclass, you can experience those. Okay, here we go. Play the blues. Now I'll play jazzy. A minor Dorian. Open strings. Chord tone on the B. It's the fifth of the B minor chord. Back to the blues. Leaving space. And it's the most effective thing, because as guitar players, we just want to do a constant run-on sentence. And I'm more guilty of that than anybody. Case in point, that riff was way, way too long. I could just go forever, and then you go, why am I doing that? Much more expressive to treat improvisation like you're a vocalist. That was just a straight A minor chord. These E minor triads are very useful too. Here's one. Chord tone. The ninth. That's jazzy. There was a question about how to make chords more jazzy, and that's when you just start adding extensions. You know, you can do E minor 7, E minor 9. There was a gentleman who was a legend, a living legend in the 80s that was a play. You know, his name was Ted Green, and some of you know who he is. And he was in LA, and the best players in town would go take a lesson from him. And regular players would too, but he absolutely demanded that you practice the lesson before you came back the next time. And so players were always living in fear. Oh, God, I didn't practice my TED lesson. I'm going to let it go. Do you want it? And actually, somebody said that to me once, and I was too intimidated to go. But there are books that he wrote, and one of them is called Chord Chemistry, and I would recommend it if you want to just find every version of guitar chords you could possibly think of, and some of them are just too big of a stretch. My hands are small, so I can't do the, huge stretches. Others we see and know and love have bigger hands, and it's easier. It's just, you do what you can. Chord Chemistry. Yep. That's it. So Ted was amazing, and he left us that legacy. There are lots of other sources, too. There's probably an app you can get that has every chord, but the Ted Green thing is very soulful. I don't know if they're out of print. How could they be out of print? It's too much. These are too legendary. So that's my recommendation. Somebody else asked about stage fright, and this is something everybody has to live with. You can bet that even our most poised favorite people are filled with adrenaline when they get on stage. If you think of somebody like Taylor Swift, I don't really follow her, but anybody that gets on a stage in front of a huge audience, the 10 minutes beforehand, the 20 minutes beforehand, the adrenaline begins to build. And even if, as a sideman, when I used to tour in the 80s, the adrenaline and nerves would build in the minutes before you get on stage. Then you get on stage and you're feeling it, but preparation is the key, I've told this story before. I'll be very quick with it. I did Glenn Campbell's last performance at the Grammys, and there was a Jerry Reed lick that I had to play that was quite demanding, and when I got there, I saw that they were going to put the camera, the red light on the camera, the close cam, the guy walking around the stage was going to go straight to my hand for that lick. And it was lucky for me that I had practiced it, I kid you not, 200 times in anticipation, because it was kind of a featured little spot, and I just kept drilling it for like 3 weeks before probably 4 weeks before the actual Grammy event, and I played it perfectly. And I mean, I don't take responsibility for playing it perfectly, but that just gives you an idea with the camera on. And, you know, Paul McCartney was sitting in the audience during rehearsal. It was one of those things where maximum exposure to a mistake you don't want to make. So preparation. And what happens, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but the first 3 songs you might be nervous and then it goes away. So you just got to be patient and wait for it to subside. Some gigs you're nervous the whole time. I did a gig at the Experience Festival at Paul Reed Smith's, and he put me on at the end. And the problem with that, I'll never let him do that again. The problem with that is I had to listen to every great guitar player who'd been invited all night just shred before I got up on stage. And when I got up on stage to do my simple style of playing, I was so nervous. I don't know how I even played. But I looked back at the film of it, and it was fine. But it wasn't comfortable 1 minute of the time I was up there. I think I did 2 songs, because everybody did just, you know, a short segment. It was not, I never got to the place of comfort when I was up there. It was the most nervous I think I've ever been. And I looked back at the video. It was like, oh, that's okay. It worked. It was fine. Yeah. One more little playthrough. Over to A minor. First position is always good. You know, Stevie Ray Vaughan excelled there. I've always done a lot of that, a lot of muting and thumping all the strings when I play one note. Be careful though, you can overuse that. I actually have reined it back in. I used to use it too much. There's that one string action. You stay on one string and you're automatically playing a melody. It's a great trick. I had somebody ask me at yesterday's Masterclass about playing outside. Just go up a half step and then make sure you land back in key. And it works a lot better with like a very simple song. With these sophisticated chords, going outside, not quite as satisfying, unless you're Alan Holdsworth or you know, somebody who plays so fast. If you play at lightning fast speed, you can completely leave the key center, and as long as you land back on the key center, can actually pretty cool. But that's not me. That's Alan Holdsworth, and that's a lot of the kids who are, you know, playing at ferocious speed. Okay, guys, thanks so much. We will see you on the next one, and stay happy this weekend. Stay warm and stay safe. And thanks so much. All right, guys, I'll play out, and we'll see you on the next one.